Not every royal scandal was about affairs or money. Some came down to DNA. Behind palace walls, questions of paternity forced kings, princes, and heirs into tests that shocked entire families. A European count forced to prove his children were really his. A royal heir dragged into a public DNA case that threatened his inheritance. And a princess whose lover demanded proof of her child's father. These weren't whispers. They were courtroom-level battles. So which royals were tested? Here are 12 cases where royals did paternity test. At number 12, we have King Albert II of Belgium. Former King Albert of Belgium endured one of Europe's most high-profile paternity scandals. For decades, artist Delphine Boyle insisted she was Albert's daughter from his long affair with Baroness Sybil de Sayes Longchamps in the 1960s. Albert, married to Queen Paola since 1959, long denied the claim, even as Delphine pursued legal recognition. In 2013, shortly after Albert abdicated, Delphine filed a paternity suit. Albert fought it bitterly for years, refusing DNA testing despite court orders. A judge eventually imposed daily fines until he complied. Finally, in 2019, Albert submitted its saliva sample. The DNA results were decisive. Albert was Delphine's biological father, according to Delphine, as his fourth child. The prolonged saga fascinated Belgians. It was the first time Belgian royals' private life had been dragged into court. Public sympathy largely sided with Delphine, who said she pursued the case to affirm her identity for herself and her children after years of feeling rejected. Once the DNA confirmed her paternity, Delphine was legally recognized as Princess of Belgium. Albert's belated admission delivered with dignity and honor via his lawyers, finally ending the ordeal. The public reaction was with mixed relief that the truth was out, with criticism of Albert's lengthy stonewalling. At number 11, we have Prince Albert of Monaco. He earned a reputation as a cosmopolitan bachelor in his premarital years, a lifestyle that led to two public paternity revelations. According to Town & Country magazine, in 2005, a French magazine exposed that he had a secret toddler son, Alexander, with former flight attendant Nicole Coste. Under media pressure, Albert officially confirmed the boy's patronage. It emerged that back in 2003, he had quietly taken a DNA test which proved him as the father when Alexander was an infant. Albert had even eventually legally recognized the child and provided financial support on condition of the news staying private during Prince Albert's Rainier's life. The revelation of the princely love child caused a sensation in Monaco. Albert breaking with Grimaldi tradition of secrecy, acknowledging Alexander in a televised statement. However, Monaco's constitution had been amended in 2002 to bar children born out of wedlock from the line of succession. Thus, Alexander would enjoy Albert's name and affection, but he holds no dynastic rights. Just a year later, in 2006, Albert faced another paternity claim, this time from U.S. Tamara Rotolo, asserting that her teenage daughter, Jasmine Grace, was Albert's from a brief liaison in 1991. After years of Rotolo's legal attempts for recognition, Albert agreed to DNA testing. The result confirmed Jasmine's paternity, and Albert publicly acknowledged her as his daughter. Next, we have Nicholas Medford Mills of Romania. Nicholas, formerly Prince Nicola of Romania, experienced a royal paternity controversy that dramatically impacted his status. Nicholas is the only son of Princess Elena of Romania and grandson of the late King Michael I. For years, he was a popular young royal and even a potential heir to the Romanian non-reigning royal house, until an unexpected scandal all unfolded. In 2015, King Michael suddenly stripped Nicholas of his prince title and placed in the succession, citing that Romanian royal families should be led by someone with a, quote, modest moral conduct. Time rumors swirled that Nicholas had fathered a child out of wedlock. He initially denied it vehemently. The claimant was Nicola Surgeon, a Romanian woman who alleged that Nicholas was the father of her infant daughter, born in 2016. Nicholas, who married Alina Maria Binder in 2017, continued his own refute of paternity, and for a while the matter remained unresolved, casting a shadow over the Romanian royal family's image. However, in 2019, Nicholas had a change of heart, or at least resolve to get definitive answers. According to People magazine, he agreed to undergo a DNA paternity test to put the claims to rest. The result came back positive, confirming that Nicholas was indeed the child's biological father. In May 2019, a 34-year-old Nicholas publicly acknowledged the daughter, named Iris Anna, in candid Facebook post. But those weren't the only royals who were forced in the DNA drama. The next cases exposed secrets buried for decades. At number 9, we have Prince Carlos, Duke of Parma. Born in 1970, Carlos Xavier hails from a defunct European royal house and is a cousin to the Dutch royal family. His brush with paternity drama shows that even quote-unquote minor royals are not immune to legal battles over offspring. In the late 1990s, Carlos had a brief relationship with Bridget Klinstra, a childhood friend. According to The Guardian, this resulted in the birth of a son, Hugo, in 1997, and at the time, Carlos was unmarried and in his late 20s. According to reports, he and Bridget struck a formal agreement. Carlos would acknowledge paternity privately, but the child would never bear his name or titles, ostentatiously to avoid public scandal or dynastic complication. For years, Hugo was raised with his mother's surname and with no royal status. However, as Hugo near adulthood, he began to seek recognition of his royal heritage. In 2015, at 18, Hugo petitioned Dutch authorities to change his surname to that of his father and to the claim of his princely title by right. This sparked a legal battle that lasted several years and captured media attention in the Netherlands. Crucially, there was never doubt that Hugo's biological paternity. Back in 1990, Bridget had pursued a court order to have Carlos's paternity legally established. A DNA test at the time confirmed Prince Carlos was indeed Hugo's father. Next, we have Captain Mark Phillips of the UK. Even those who married into royalty can find themselves in paternity scandals. Captain Mark Phillips is a former Olympic equestrian who married Princess Anne in 1973. Though a commoner, Phillips was very much a part of the royal orbit during his marriage, and it was during this time that a bombshell paternity case emerged. According to a website named Nick Swift, in the mid-1980s, while still married to Princess Anne, Mark Phillips had an affair with an English teacher turned art instructor from New Zealand, Heather Tonkin. Tonkin gave birth to a baby girl, Felicity, in August 1985. Phillips initially kept the affair secret from the public, but he did quietly begin sending financial support to Heather for the child, referring to it obliquely as equestrian consultancy fees. By 1991, however, the situation unraveled. Payments had slowed, and Phillips reportedly refused to be named on Felicity's birth certificate. Heather Tonkin, feeling spurned, initially a paternity suit in British courts. Under the media glare, Mark Phillips compelled to undergo a DNA paternity test as part of the legal proceeding. The DNA results confirmed that Phillips was indeed Felicity's father. A financial settlement for Felicity's upbringing was reached, and Heather Tonkin announced she had pursued a case simply for my child, so that her daughter's parentage was on record and secured. At number 7, we have Anthony Armstrong Jones, the first Earl of Snowdon. Anthony, the charismatic photographer who married Princess Margaret in 1960, lived a life where glamour and scandal often overlapped, you could say. Known for his artistic eye and bringing a model touch to royal imagery, he also led a personal life marked by affairs and controversies. Among them was the hidden chapter that came to light decades later, when Snowdon's relationship with Polly Fry, daughter of his close friends Jeremy and Camilla Fry, was thrust into the open. The affair occurred in the late 1950s, just before Snowdon's marriage to Prince Margaret. For years, Polly Fry was legally and socially regarded as the daughter of Jeremy Fry, who had been one of Snowdon's closest companions and collaborators, but whispers about her paternity persisted with their social circle. In 2004, a question continued to linger, and Polly sought to clarify and requested a DNA test. Snowdon agreed, and the results were unambiguous. He was indeed the biological father. The revelation carried deep personal and public implications. Polly, who had lived most of her life under one assumption about her lineage, suddenly had her identity reframed by scientific evidence. For Snowdon, it meant a late-life confrontation with consequences of choices he had made nearly a half-century earlier. Though he did not deny the result, he offered little public commentary, allowing the confirmation to speak for itself. And if you think that was shocking, wait until you see the next royal's entire reputation hinging on a single test. Next, we have Prince Bernhard of the Netherlands. He remains one of Europe's most controversial royal figures, known for his service in the military and his role in promoting international business and conservation through ventures like World Wildlife Fund. He is also repeatedly dogged by scandals. Perhaps the most personal controversy surfaced only after his death in 2004, when hidden truths about his private life were finally revealed. For decades, rumors had circulated about Bernhard's extramarital affairs and possible illegitimate children. These whispers were tolerated but never confirmed in his lifetime. In a striking twist, Bernhard himself had given an interview to Dutch journalists under a strict condition that the contents be publicized only after his death. He passed away at the age of 93. Those embargoed statements were released, and they contained a stunning admission. Bernhard openly acknowledged that he had fathered two daughters outside the marriage to Queen Julia, Alicia, born in 1952, and Alexia Grinda, born in 1967. After the DNA test, the confirmation came directly from Bernhard, making it a legal and historical acknowledgement rather than gossip. Reports also noted that financial and inheritance agreements had quietly been drawn up and made for the daughters, underlining the seriousness of his words. According to multiple news reports, the disclosure shocked the Netherlands, not least because Bernhard had cultivated an image as a dashing consort who had helped modernize the monarchy. At number 5, we have Sir Steuart Pringle, the UK. The dispute over the Pringle baronetcy became one of the most remarkable examples of modern-day science altering centuries-old aristocratic tradition. The baronetcy, a hereditary dignitary created in 1683, had passed through generations without serious change. But the 20th century, it's held by Sir Steuart Pringle, a decorated Royal Marines general who had survived an IRA car issue in 1981 and later became
became a respected military leader. His succession was unquestioned until science intervened. When Steuart died in 2013, it was assumed that his son would succeed as the 11th Baronet. Yet a distant cousin, Norman Murray Pringle, raised an objection. He argued that the male line from which Steuart descended might not be legitimate. The challenge prompted genealogical research and eventually Y chromosome DNA tests were carried out to compare different branches of the family. The results were stunning. They showed that Sir Steuart's line was not biologically connected to the original baronetcy founder. Somewhere in the family's history, likely generations earlier, a non-paternity event had occurred, a hidden affair or an undisclosed circumstance that broke the male lineage. The matter escalated to the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council, the body that resolves peerage and baronetcy claims. It was the first time that modern genetic science had directly determined the inheritance of a British hereditary line.
Next, we have Count of Ayala of Spain. The Count of Ayala case in Spain is a striking example of how modern science can confirm biological truth while century-old laws still hold decisive sway. At the center of the drama stood Raquel Mugurio Regado, who long claimed to be the biological daughter of the late Count of Casa Ayala, a title of Spanish nobility. Her claim rested on her mother's relationship with the Count, which had taken place outside wedlock. For years, her status remained unacknowledged, leaving her excluded from the aristocratic inheritance that should have been hers by blood. The turning point came in 2012 when the Spanish court ordered a DNA test. According to the media reports, the results were clear. The Count was indeed Raquel's father. On the strength of this evidence, the lower court recognized her affiliation, effectively confirming that she was a direct descendant of the line. The decision made headlines as it demonstrated once again that even noble houses were no longer beyond the reach of forensic science. When the case reached the Supreme Court in March 2016, the judges acknowledged Raquel's biological link, but ruling that she was nonetheless barred from the inheriting of the title. The DNA proof gave her recognition as the Count's daughter, but not the social and symbolic power, all of becoming the Countess of Ayala. The scandals growing even darker from here. The next royal's paternity fight dragged in courts, headlines, and entire families, all into chaos. At number 3, we have Don Carlo Caracciolo, 9th Prince of Castaneto and the Duke. He was a celebrated figure of the Italian media, co-founder of L'Espresso and La Repubblica, whose passion for journalism was matched only by a life shrouded in personal complexity. Upon his death, December 2008, a $2 million inheritance, including stakes in a major media company, sparked fierce, highly publicized legal and familial conflict. The late prince's body was unexpectedly cremated by his adopted daughter, igniting a scandal among relatives and friends. Her actions appeared to be to protect the secret. Carlo had fathered 2 more children, Carlo Ravelli Jr. and Margherita Ravelli Rebecchini, from a relationship outside of marriage. And according to Vanity Fair in 2007, their mother revealed that Carlo was their biological father, prompting them their legal paternity under Italian law and to file papers seeking recognition as the heirs. This set off a sweeping legal battle, and the Ravellis submitted DNA test results that contradicted the nominal father's paternity and combined them with a letter of Carlo acknowledging them as children. However, Italian law posed procedural hurdles. Challenges could not move forward unless initiated within 1 year of the discovery of the new patronage through DNA testing, and only after denying their former father, which complicated their case and heightened the drama. When the Ravellis' claims eventually gained some legal recognition around 2011, it didn't solve the estate issues at all. Next, we have Princess Dialta Aliata de Montreal. She is an Italian aristocrat living in Hawaii who became the central figure in one of Europe's longest inheritance disputes. Her story begins not with her, but with her mother, Leona Bellassi. For decades, Bellassi claimed she was the illegitimate daughter of the celebrated Anglo-Italian art collector Arthur Acton, who built a vast fortune and an unparalleled art collection housed at the Villa La Pirta in Florence. When Acton's legitimate son, Sir Harold Acton, died in 1994, he left the villa and its billion-dollar treasures. Bellassi excluded and fought for recognition, but died in 2000 without seeing her claim succeed. Dialta refused to let the matters end there, and in 2003 she pushing the Florentine courts to authorize the exhumation of Arthur Acton's remains. Forensic experts extracted DNA samples, and in the 2012 results confirmed that Leona Bellassi was indeed Arthur Acton's biological daughter. This revelation transformed whispers into proof and allowed Dialta to guarantee equal inheritance rights to children born outside marriage, giving Dialta a stronger platform than her mother ever had. In 2017, the Count of Florence recognized her claim, granting her legal rights as Acton's granddaughter. This meant Dialta stood to inherit a half share of his art estate, valued at nearly $1 billion. And at number 1, we have Prince Ernst of Hanover. As the head of the former royal house of Hanover from 1953 until his death in 1987, he represented one of Europe's most historically significant significant yet dethroned dynasties. The Hanoverians had once sat the British throne, and their cadet branches maintained deep ties across the continent. While Ernst August fulfilled his traditional duties as custodian of the house's legacy, his personal life carried complexities that echoed through aristocratic circles in Germany. Married to Princess Ortrud of Schlesinger-Holstein, Ernst August fathered several legitimate children who maintained the Hanoverian line. Yet in 1943, during the turbulence of the Second World War, he was also a father of a child born outside of wedlock, Christian von Humboldt. Christian's mother came from a distinguished German family, and although no marriages united their parents, sources both contemporary and genealogical consistently list Ernst August as his biological father. This was not whispered as a rumor, but rather an accepted fact that European nobility and their records entered in standard reference works and genealogical handbooks that track the cadet branches of historical houses. The recognition of Christian's paternity did not spark public scandal at the time. Wartime Europe was preoccupied with survival, and the Hanoverians, dispossessed of their kingdom, lived largely in private spheres. Nevertheless, the acknowledgement carried weight for genealogists and family historians. With this, we end today's video. We'll be back with a new video shortly, and until then, happy watching, and do subscribe to our channel if you still haven't.